Hello, all. Happy Tuesday. I talked a bit about a similar topic yesterday, and I like to kind of layer my stuff, and then something landed in my inbox, and so I want to talk today about a particular headline I saw, which I do not consider drama. Thank you for um, the comments, the feedback on drama videos. It was very helpful. More on that on Feedback Friday, but thank you very much for the input. It is greatly appreciated as I try to sort out how to calibrate content for this channel. But I read a large variety of news sources. I read MSNBC.com, CBC.com, and The Economist regularly because they're apps on my tablet and phone. I do have the CNN app on my phone as well that I read much less frequently for reasons that will become apparent. But I also subscribe to the Reliable Sources and Fareed Zakaria GPS newsletters. And then occasionally I will go and read the Fox News website. I don't get Fox News, so I can't watch it. I get CNN and MSNBC. Of those two, I prefer MSNBC. Obviously, if you follow my Twitter feed, I love my Ali Velshi and I love my Ari Melber. But I try to read a wide variety of news sources so I don't get stuck in an echo chamber. You notice I avoid the extremely partisan, strictly online services. So things like Breitbart, the Daily Caller, the Daily Beast, Vox, what's the other big one that they talk about? BuzzFeed. I have a personal grudge against BuzzFeed because they used a photo of me once that was implied nudity on a story about Ed the Sock. It wasn't about me and Ed the Sock. It was about Ed the Sock. And they used a picture of me in a way that I felt made me seem like a prop. And I asked them to change it, but they thought it was great. And so it didn't matter what the hell I wanted. They kept it, even though I didn't like the depiction using a story, using a photo about me with no photo credit in an article that wasn't about me. Great liberal bastion right there, the Daily Beast. But I don't tend to read extremely partisan services. I don't consider CNN a partisan service. I just think they're kind of infotainment more than hard news, and that's a reality of the 24-hour news cycle. It's hard to fill 24 hours a day with solid news content, and I get that. I am sympathetic to that. But when I watch MSNBC, I feel smarter because people, first of all, don't talk over each other. I don't feel like they've assembled panels just to make people fight. There are Republicans there. There are Democrats there. Obviously, they have a usually more business approach, a business friendly approach, just because, CNBC is a sister station that they share some content with. But generally, I just feel informed, even though they definitely have, a lens on things. They have a bias, if you will. I don't feel dumber after watching it. Now, CNN, I tried to give a chance to on the weekend because Fareed Zakaria was on, and I turned it on. State of the Union was still on, and within 90 seconds, someone, happened to be a woman, but going on, women as mothers, as nurturers, want, and they start generalizing on the female vote, even though if you actually look at the data, look at the breakdowns, single women voted differently than married women, black women voted differently than white women. Even the numbers within like conservative women, they weren't in lockstep. Evangelical voters don't vote the same way as non-evangelical voters, including the women. You can't just say women vote a certain way. And I'm like, oh, for God's sakes, off. And then I saw this in a newsletter. Like I said, I get the Reliable Sources newsletter. I get this. Oops, I gotta move it over. How do I do this? Crap. There we go. Fade. There. See. Stelter, who's the Reliable Sources guy. Trump's hate movement against media. And I was like, buh? Hate movement? Dem strong words, Brian Stelter. I confuse him with Brian Seltzer, you know, the musician who's awesome. But hate movement? Roar? And I gave it a chance. I started thinking about it. And I couldn't figure out, even though I completely disagree with Donald Trump's attacks against the media, I think they are, and let's be clear, this is important for distinction of a hate movement. It's not all media. It's just the fake, disgusting fake news. He never quite says who specifically is the fake news other than CNN and Jim Acosta, who I actually think is a good reporter. I know he's had run-ins with Katie Tour on MSNBC. He takes issue with Don Lemon, who he's called the stupidest man in media or news. I disagree with that as well. But hate movement. That's going to be the thumbnail. You just know it. It's going to come up because YouTube likes to take funny faces. And I'm good with that because I like funny faces. But so I didn't want to take my recollection. I'm like, this guy's in the news. One of his researchers must have looked up the definition of hate movement before he went on TV and made such a strong statement. And he didn't, they didn't just do one video about it. They have it mirrored in the international edition. So see, this is the international edition. This over here is the US edition. They put it on both. So this was a global story. But I looked up what a hate group is. And you see, this is the Southern Poverty Law Center's website. And the Southern Poverty Law Center, you sneeze the wrong way, somebody there calls it a hate group. But even the Southern Poverty Law Center's definition of a hate crime or a hate group does not actually line up with Brian Stelter, yeah. Brian Stelter's definition, like how he's using it regarding Trump's attacks on press he doesn't like. The Southern Poverty Law Center defines a hate group as an organization that, based on its official statements or principles, the statement of its leaders, or its activities, has beliefs or practices that attack or malign an entire class of people, typically for their immutable characteristics. The organizations on our hate group list vilify others because of their race, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, or gender identity, prejudices that strike at the heart of our democratic values and fracture society along its most fragile fault lines. The FBI uses similar criteria in its definition of a hate crime, a criminal defense against a person or property motivated in whole or in part by an offender's bias against a race, religion, disability, sexual orientation, ethnicity, gender, or gender identity. And let's look at this hate group list so you realize how serious this is. 954 hate groups currently operating in the US, and you see swastikas and X's, and I guess they don't actually show the names. But let's pop up on one. What is this? Fellowship of God's Covenant People, okay. Oh, look, they've got cute little hoods. Ku Klux Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. Okay, great. The Daily Stormer. Oh, okay. Fundamentalist Latter-day Saints. Really? Okay. Okay. Sure. Wow. They list the Fundamentalist Latter-day Saints as a hate group. That's really interesting. I have seen Fundamentalist LDL, which is not LDS, which is not to be confused with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints you see on TV, the Mormons. This is a different organization. Act for America. Okay. Anti-Muslim. White nationalist. Okay. Neo-Volkish. Okay. I don't know what that is. I'm going to have to look that up. Okay. Racist skinhead. So anti-immigrant. Okay, so you kind of see, I don't know, hate music. Oh, okay. Is that like, am I on this for hating The Sims? It doesn't end up, but you see, it's sort of a relatively low bar regarding what constitutes a hate group, and that's why I used it because I thought if I can take something that would be inclined to support Stelter's theory that Trump's rhetoric classifies as hate, capital H sort of thing, as in hate movement, not just that he is being hateful towards people he doesn't like, but hatred is in capital H bigotry, even though they don't capitalize it. But again, let's go through it. A hate group or movement is an organization. So it would have to be what? The White House, the Republican Party, Trump himself cannot be a hate movement. So I'm assuming he means these big rallies where people show up and it's like a big professional wrestling event with the press as the heel that everybody can boo and hiss and stomp their feet and all that stuff. So we're gonna have to use those rallies as the organization, because otherwise it's the White House. And okay, based on its official statements or principles, there is some confusion over whether Trump's tweets, whether his statements at these rallies constitute official White House statements, and I don't think many people can actually name their policies, including them. The statements of its leaders, all right, checks that box for sure. Or its activities against the media? Maybe they do sort of hold them up for derision. So we're batting about 50% here. Has beliefs or practices that attack or malign an entire class of people, typically for their immutable characteristics, which we have determined race, religion, disability, sexual orientation, ethnicity, gender, or gender identity are considered immutable characteristics. Career is not. Being bad at your job is not. So Brian Stelter is misusing the term hate movement or hate group. And this is a problem because this is him feeding right into Trump's CNN sucks, they don't know what they're doing, their fake news rhetoric. And I don't understand why they would do this other than they're afraid. They're getting death threats, and as somebody who's gotten that, I tell you, that's damn scary at first. Unfortunately, after a while, you get a little bit used to it. Actually, you get a lot used to it. And you start going into that credible death threat thing. But the mainstream press is sort of where people who do what I do have been for quite a few years. No one was really taking it seriously, that we are expected to figure out for ourselves what is a credible threat and what is not a credible threat. And a layperson is not necessarily the best person to do that. I actually contacted a colleague of mine in federal law enforcement who I use as a reference when I talk about some of these like law and order issues and he gave me some pointers on credible threats. Credible threats tend to, first of all, be from someone who seems to know you, who lives in your area. And there are specifics like where or when or how, or unfortunately too many times you should die. I hope someone kills you is seen as a death threat. That is not a credible threat according to most law enforcement. And that was one of my big issues circa 2014, 2015 in gaming, is people were sharing all these so-called death threats, and all they were is, I hope you die, or I hope someone shoots you, or people love telling me they hope somebody threw me in an oven, or they hope somebody gassed me, or I deserve to be gassed, or something like that. Anti-Semitism, awesome. One person said they would burn my word for lady bits that begins with a C. Um, a few others like that, and that one was just so absurd that it flew out of my mouth before I could stop it. I said, "Do you realize what that would smell like? The smell of burning vagina? Like, yikes, dude! Be careful what you wish for." First of all, I'm a ginger. I'd probably survive it. Second of all, whoa, you think burning dog smells bad? Joke, right? Joke. Dark humor, coping mechanism. The coping mechanism of others in the press is to lose their freaking minds and make the problem worse. And this is not me being insensitive. This is me being told by multiple levels of law enforcement, don't show it, don't spread it. You're encouraging more threats if you share this stuff. And it is very difficult when you are a reporter and you are also the target of something like this, to do this properly, to do it correctly. And this is where journalistic ethics comes in. I'm going to talk more about that tomorrow because I'm trying to keep these videos a little shorter. But you do not encourage people to send you nonsense, violent performance art, so that they can get their email read on television. And believe it or not, that's what some people do. Because, and this is something I had to learn, when you spend enough time in the media, and I have been on a screen in some form for almost half my life at this point, actually probably exactly half my life, not full time. I didn't start full time until I was 26, 27, something like that. I started working in TV when I was 19, and it was 7 years before I was on air. But you start to lose your own, I know you guys don't like this word, but you start to lose sight of your own privilege in terms of what it means to be in the media and what it means to have a platform where you can do what I do and go and talk and have anybody give a damn. And you start forgetting that you can't do what you did when nobody gave a damn about what you said. Your words do have power now. Your words can heal. Your words can hurt. And I think a big difference between me and other people who do this kind of stuff, especially women, because you have to be so freaking young when you start that you don't know nothing about nothing. You're too young. But I was very aware of the power of media because I'd done documentaries and I'd done youth television and things like that. But even then, early on, I did not watch my Twitter feed as much as I should. I made some mistakes. I got spanked for it. I got in some trouble. I learned my lessons. I wish there was a better way for people to learn that, to transition into this sphere of media privilege. Now, I don't think anybody should be afraid to do their jobs. I think that personally, if I was a service like CNN, if I was a service like MSNBC, as soon as if my reporters are feeling threatened, if my reporters are being used as, the sacrificial lamb in some sort of cathartic shit show, don't cover the event. There's no requirement to cover it, or just send a camera person and no reporter, because at least the camera people have sort of a shield. They're not a recognizable face like a Jim Acosta is. But I would refuse to cover the events. That actually happened up here when Stephen Harper's government started pulling shenanigans with the press. The entire press corps walked out one day. Everybody, the conservative press, the liberal press, they were like, no, on ceremony, this is not a partisan issue. We'll go back to being competitors tomorrow, but for today, we're standing up for the free press. And it diminished significantly, but the Harper conservatives up here also tried to use the media as a convenient enemy. It didn't work nearly so well. And unfortunately, the Trudeau government does it to an extent too. But again, no time for that. So I'm covering this because this is not, I understand it on a human level. I understand it that somebody would be afraid and kind of freak out. On a professional level, this is why you have editors. This is why you have colleagues. This is why you have a feedback system within your company to stop you from saying things that are just provably not true. And every time CNN spills its spaghetti like this, it feeds in to Trump's narrative of fake news. And as much as it's not fair that you have to be perfect or near perfect, that's the reality. The flip side of having this media privilege where you guys care about what I say is you guys expect me to get it right and you expect me to own it when I get it wrong. And that's what I'm going to talk about tomorrow from a journalistic ethics perspective. But that is important to keep in mind. And it's really much better to just not talk about it. And I know it's hard because it's so frustrating when it happens day after day after day. But it really is the better thing to do. So thanks for watching. Hey, I kept it to almost 20 minutes. Yes. I'd like to get them a little shorter. I'd like to get them down to 15, but getting there, learning, improvement. And Loki's looking at me like, what are you doing? He's over there and he's like, Mazot? Yeah, hi, Loki. Loki's been feeling kind of sick lately. But thanks for watching. Leave a comment. What do you think? Feel free to disagree with me. You guys know I'm okay with that as long as you're cool and make it like, offer me something instead of just know you're wrong. Like, tell me your side. I like reading comments. I like reading well-argued facts that seem to actually be interested in starting a conversation instead of just, no, standing in judgment, judgy stare. But yeah, I thought your comments yesterday were great. And there was a big diversity of opinion that actually allowed me to sort of find a common theme. Like, it actually allowed me to form a Venn diagram of what people wanted, liked, didn't like. And you guys were really understanding about the business end. So like I said, more on that on Feedback Friday. But thanks. You guys are awesome. And I look forward to your comments on this video. Thanks for watching.